This video will contain spoilers for the entire numbered Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy. I'm going to give you an extra 5 seconds to get away for spoilers because I'm going to talk about one like right when I'm done speaking the sentence, so you should probably start going away because I'm about to stop talking, which I'm going to do now. Okay, I apologize for the clickbait, especially if you're a Melia fan, because this video isn't really going to contain a lot of her. Whatever I ended up titling and thumbnailing it was the best way I could think of to attempt to convey the actual message of this video without spoiling things, because I am actually here to attempt to answer a question many people have been asking pretty much since Xenoblade 3 came out and people are starting to beat it. And that is, why the hell Nia is the Queen of Agnes? Before that, I guess we could do a Melia section. Why is Melia the Queen of Keves in Xenoblade 3? Play Future Connected. Like, that is legitimately it. I'm pretty sure no one would question Melia being the Queen of Keves in Xenoblade 3 even if Future Connected didn't exist. She is literally the only one in a position of leadership who remains after the end of the game, and while we see people like Dunban and Vinaya heading up the rebuilding efforts in the new Colony 9, Melia is the only person with large-scale experience in training in leading a group of people, so she's kind of a no-brainer. But why Nia for Xenoblade 2? She's not really got the personality for it, and she doesn't have the experience, especially when you look at other party members from the game and realize that Zeke is a crown prince, Morag was a crown princess and is still a high-ranking royal, and the acting monarchs of both of their nations are still alive and well, plus there are other nations in Alrest like Uriah, who are still alive and well and kicking and made their way into the new world. So why is Nia the one in charge? I don't have a good answer, but I think I have an answer, and that is, first off, starting with the idea that Nia is not the actual ruler of Alrest. She becomes the Queen of Agnes within Aionios once it is formed, but she was not the ruler of a unified Alrest nation or anything outside of it before then. What I do think she was that led her to naturally growing into that position once the Endless Now became a thing, though, is the coordinator of the Xenoblade 2 side of the Origin project. Then you might be asking, how did that happen? And I have an actually kind of reasonable justification for it. You might not remember if you didn't talk to a lot of NPCs in 2, but after the party kicks Dougal out of Gormott in Chapter 2, there is a power vacuum there. Morardane does not appoint another governor there, and they attempt to bargain sharing sovereignty over Gormott with Uriah at the negotiations later in the game, but there's never an actual leader put in place, and it's basically up to the Gormati people to try and govern themselves again. Now, generally that tends to be a good thing. However, there's the issue that Morardane was ruling over Gormott and appointing its own leaders from the actual Ardanian Titan for the past decade, which means that there is a distinct lack of people in Gormott who have the necessary training to take up any sort of leadership position. Enter Nia, who has a surprisingly large amount of characteristics that would make the Gormati look towards her. Firstly, she is a Gormati/Blade flesh eater, and that's kind of a big deal because she literally represents the coming together of blades and humans, and since issues with blade-human relationships are what caused the Aegis Wars in the first place, I could imagine trying to repair and improve those relationships would be a big sticking point for Alrest going forwards. She was also raised as the daughter of a nobleman, so while she doesn't act like it and is very bad at putting on an act like it in the first place in Xenoblade 3, that doesn't mean that she didn't actually pick things up about being in some sort of position of authority along the way, so while not necessarily as much, she does still have something resembling training and or experience. Then there is also the fact that she appears to be a consort of the legendary Aegis driver Rex, so she's also got to be incredibly popular. And I think that if you take all those and mush them together, you get Nia being made either an appointed by committee or democratically elected first leader of a new Gormott. So I don't think it's too big of a stretch for her to be put in that sort of position, and based on some of her flashbacks, we can see that she did still appear to be living in Torgoth as of the lead up to Xenoblade 3 and the Endless Now Occurring, so that does kind of make sense. How do you extrapolate that to the entire world, though? Well, you know how Nia really liked stressing that Tora had a big role in designing the Agnian part of Origin? Tora might have spent a lot of time in Mor Ardain as a kid, but he lives in Torgoth. The entire Origin project involved both worlds getting together their best and brightest minds, and I think it wouldn't be unreasonable for Allrest to have the other brightest minds come to Tora rather than send Tora out to some of them. So I feel like Nia, in a position of authority over Gormott, opened up the diplomatic channels with the other nations, which I'm guessing was not very difficult considering she probably had to go through Zeke and Morag at some point, and was like, hey, a big problem is going to happen. We're gonna need to muster up the scientists. Send all your best guys to me. One of my buddies from the Aegis War is an average fighter and a brilliant scientist, and may I stress he is only an average fighter canonically. Goddamn, he's kind of broken in gameplay. And let's get this thing going. Believe it or not, cutscenes kind of back this up. When Nia flashes back to the worlds combining and talking with Melia beforehand, we can clearly see that not only is the Agnian half of Origin nearby to wherever Nia is standing at the time, but also that the vision of the Xenoblade 1 Earth crashing into the 2 one is also right where Nia is. And then we also see the same thing from the POV of the Gates of Torgoth. So, at the very least, the part of the theory where Agnes's origin bit was built out of Gormott because Tora was there does legitimately hold up. Now, you might want to bring up the one slide where it shows Nia, Tora, and 3 guys dressed in sage-looking outfits for some reason, overseeing the construction of the Agnian bit of Origin, and the entire Orion Titan is in the background. I don't think this contradicts this, as in the 3D shot of Nia looking at Origin, you can see what, as far as I can tell, is the same model of the landmass from the ending of Xenoblade 2, and based on reviewing that cutscene, and reviewing the data mined models from that cutscene, it seems like Gormott might have docked into the landmass right next to Araya, so she could still be from Gormott and able to just straight up see Araya. Now, granted, the 2D shot I do think contradicts how far Araya merged into the landmass, but it's possible things changed and shifted around, or just it's an inconsistency because it's a flashback, and Nia has been asleep for so long, and it's already stated in later scenes in her hero quest that, yeah, some of her memories of Xenoblade 2 are a little fuzzy at this point. The rest of the deal is definitely still a theory and in no way confirmed. I just think it happens to make the most sense out of the things that I'd been running through in my head. Also, there's just an Occam's razor explanation. The game does a very poor job at explaining exactly how the 2 worlds were able to communicate with each other, only that they were able to reach out with light and eventually understand each other and start talking and formulating the origin plan. We don't know how they did this, and more crucially, we don't know who sent the first message. So another perfectly reasonable theory is that after their close experience with the Fog King in Future Connected, Shulk and Melia continued to look into the rifts and other universes and stuff, discovered somehow through some cosmological traces that the world had been split off from a different one, realized that the Xenoblade 2 universe was out there, and were the ones to send the first message, with Nia either by design somehow or by coincidence being the one to pick it up. This would basically lead into the exact same thing where it was built out of Torgoth because Tora was there and Nia was overseeing it because she was the one in direct communication with Melia, but without the additional layer of her being the actual ruler of Torgoth, though personally, I do think that regardless of who got the message first, Melia would eventually want to get on the line with actual world leaders in order to properly coordinate things and introduce herself and be properly diplomatic and stuff, so I do still think Nia being in some position like that is still a reasonable thing to think, but maybe my arguments for that weren't as convincing, you like the idea of Shulk and Melia reaching out more, and that's perfectly okay because the only thing we really know for certain is the part where Origin was built near Gormott. But yeah, this is one of the questions in Xenoblade 3 that I don't think the game gives a satisfactory answer to whatsoever. This is just my attempt to wrangle one out of what little we've been told. And yeah, I know last video I was just praising how much more sense it makes the more you think about it. This is kind of one of those exceptions, and one of the things that I would have liked to know a bit more about. Just this theorizing isn't really enough to satisfy me in this regard, so who knows? I don't really want a prequel DLC, but if we get one, this would definitely be something I'd want to learn more about in the future. But yeah, we're under 10 minutes for once. How do you like that one? Like, comment, and subscribe for videos like this that are much longer. Until next time, this is Luxon, signing off.